All right, we are going to start Unit 2. Unit 2 is dealing all about probability and statistics, and the very first unit is on circle graphs and bar graphs. So with that being said, a circle graph, what a circle graph is, the entire circle represents the data set, and again, the data set is just going to be all the information you have, and each section represents part of the whole. The area of each section is proportional to its corresponding percentage or fraction of the total. So therefore, if you look down here, if you notice, the mushroom says 25%, so that is actually 1/4 or 25% of the entire circle. It's not like it's this tiny little bit or like almost all of it. You have to write the percent as actually the percent of the circle as well. So it's going to be proportional. It's going to look to scale. And again, if you look here, it doesn't say how many people were in the survey, it just says the percentages, but all of this encompasses the entire data set or people who were asked their favorite toppings. All right, so sections in a circle graph can be labeled using the data itself, or they can be expressed as fractions, decimals, or percents. So this particular circle graph is dealing with percents, shows the percent of how many people like each pizza topping. But I could have also had fractions here. I could have had like 1/4. I could have had decimals, 0.25, 0.18, or I could have actually just had the number of people that like that. The sum of the data in the sections will be the total amount of data. So whenever you add up all the information on the circle graph, it must be the whole data set or 100%. And if we add 25 and 18 and 16 and 23 and 18, we do get 100%. So here's an example. It says a manager at a pizza parlor surveyed her customers to find out customers' favorite toppings, and she recorded the results in the circle graph below. So in our class, we are not going to create circle graphs. We are just going to be able to use circle graphs to interpret data and make predictions. So it says if the average number of customers in one day is 300, how many customers are likely to choose olives as their favorite topping? Okay, and there's two ways you could do this problem. The way I find most people like to do this in the past is by creating proportions. So if we look at olives says 18%. So we can make a proportion that would be 18 over, and remember 18%, like part over whole. That's really what we're doing here, part over whole. So 18 is out of 100%, and that would be equal to, and again, part over whole. We don't know the part. We don't know how many people on a given day would like olives. So the whole, though, we know is 300. And remember, once you have a fraction equal to a fraction, then you can cross multiply. So remember, I'm going to put an X up here because this is what I'm trying to figure out. I'm trying to find the olive. And so I'm going to cross multiply diagonally this way. So 100x. Don't forget your equal sign. And then multiply diagonally the other way. 18 times 300 is 5,400. And then we divide by 100. And we would say x equals 54. So 54 people would have olives as their favorite on a given day. And we can circle that. So again, we just used the data, the circle graph, to create or make a prediction. The other way you could have done it, so that was way one. The other way you could have done it is we know 18% of the 300 people will like olives. So what we have to do is just kind of interpret this. 18% as a decimal, move your decimal 2 places to the left. 0.18, of means multiply 300. and 0.18 times 300 is also 54. So whichever way you like to do better, that's fine. Just make sure you know how to do it. All right, now the bar graph. So a bar graph can have either horizontal or vertical bars. This one happens to have vertical bars. The length of the bars correspond to the data set. So this one happens to be the direct correlation of the circle graph. And so notice there are percents on the sides here. Oftentimes you will see, instead of percents, so on a bar graph, you'll see like the number of people that actually liked pineapple, olives, mushrooms, green peppers, and onions. But notice it is the same thing. You're going to have your topping down here, and then the percents up here. So we can see that most people like the mushrooms. And again, we are not really going to create these bar graphs. We're going to use them mostly for answering questions and making predictions. If you look at your homework, Question 1 is just a multiple choice question, and here's the numbers in our data set, and then there's some bar graphs below, and we want to match up which bar graph will match this data set. And if you notice, what's happening here is this is a range. So this is between 0 and 4 wins, 5 and 9 wins, 10 and 14 wins, 15 and 19 wins. So what I would do is off to the side here is I would make a chart. So 0 to 4, 5 to 9, 10 to 14, and 15 to 19. And I would go through my entire data set and mark or put a tick mark next to what corresponds. So here my first number is a 3, so in the 0 to 4 I'd put a tick mark. My next number is a 4, so in the 0 to 4 I put a tick mark. The next number is an 8, so in the 5 to 9 I put a tick mark. And then this is just saying the frequency, how many times this is occurring. So however many tick marks you have in the 0 to 4 is how far up this bar graph should go. Okay, hopefully that helps. For number 2, you have a bar chart or pie chart, and you are going to be using proportions, just like our problem in our example, to answer these questions. And then number 3, you are having a bar chart here, and it says there's 200 people that are selected. V will ask 80 students to select their favorite sport based on the information in the bar graph. How many students of the next 80 will select basketball rather than their favorite sport, rather than football as their favorite sport? So you do have to use the fact that 200 people were in the survey. You might want to make a proportion to figure out how many out of the 80. So you probably want to make 2 proportions. One where it's basketball total over 200, and then the total will be 80. How many of those out of those 80 would like basketball? How many of those 80 would like football? So 2 different proportions, and then you have to figure out how many more would like football or rather have basketball than football. All right, hope that helps.